Republicans hate Americans. Yep, I said it. They hate Americans. The average American, the Republicans do not like. And the everyday American, the hardworking American there's plenty of proof in the pudding. And the latest is they're happy. They got their bill. They're getting ready their big, beautiful bill. House Republicans are working to gut the Inflation Reduction Act, despite the fact that nearly 3/4 of its investments have benefited Republican-led states. Think about that. 3/4 of the investments from the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, remember the Inflation Reduction Act, the one that the MAGA people were going crazy about, that Joe Biden passed? And you probably was wondering, why would they get upset about it? A lot of that bill was geared for these communities. But they didn't care. They were like, no, it's too much. The spending, blah, it's going to make everything cost more. And somehow fixing water and infrastructure was bad because some rich CEO was going to have to raise his price of selling, I don't know, chicken or Walmart, whatever. Right? They tried to correlate the two that made no sense. They just didn't want, they wanted their towns to continue to look like trash as long as they could say, well, our towns don't have running water or proper electricity or internet access, but at least we are fiscally conservative about it, right? So despite the fact that they hated Joe Biden's Reduction Act, Biden and the Democrats thought that it was beneficial to help these communities. Because when you're the president of the United States, you're supposed to help all communities, not just the ones who voted for you. So, well, the Republicans now back in power, they said, well, you need to gut all that out because we need tax cuts for the rich. Our rich donors, our wealthy billionaires need tax cuts. So all that stuff that was promised to you, average Joe, hardworking, to low income, middle to low income communities, screw you all. The rich need their money. They need their cuts. We promised them the cuts and we're going to deliver them the cuts. While we have to take away from you because you are nothing. You are garbage. You are trash. We got your vote. Thank you for voting. Now we're in power. We don't care. We don't need you. Right? Basically. So, like I said, nearly 3/4 of the investment spurred by the IRA, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, ironically IRA, funny, have flown to states that voted for Trump. Once Republicans decide how thoroughly to dismantle Biden's trademark achievement, we'll see how committed they are to snatching from their own constituents. Now, they are definitely to do this because it's one of Biden's trademark achievement. That's the reason. They're like, we cannot leave nothing in place that helps make Biden look good. We need something to compare it against. So when Trump is done doing what he does, and you try to compare what Trump did with Biden, then you can easily say, oh, Biden's policy sucked, right? Because that's why it was gutted out. So that's what they're doing. Have described the big, beautiful mega bill they're currently attempting to pass as a way to end the Green New Deal style waste and limit government spending to what actually helps Americans. This is according to the House Energy Commerce Committee chair. The House Ways and Means Committee put its plans to axe the Inflation Reduction Act climate and energy programs under the heading Working Families Over Elites. The class warfare style language is familiar. Over the last several years, the right has reliably leveraged its fake populism against Joe Biden's climate and energy measures. Tax cuts for the rich are pro-growth, pro-family, and pro-America, while the Inflation Reduction Act is corporate welfare for progressive special interests, which makes no sense. They're lying about the content of their mega bill, and they're playing wrong that climate and energy spending benefits only the wealthy. The most bizarre thing about the GOP's war on alleged climate elites getting rich off the IRA, however, is that the main beneficiaries of Joe Biden's trademark legislative achievement have actually benefited Republicans. That's right, Republicans have benefited the most from Joe Biden's Infrastructure Inflation Reduction Act. The goddamn Republicans. Nearly 3/4 of investments spurred on by that bill have flown to states that voted to make Trump president. 2/3 of those funds have come in the form of private sector investments, incentivized by the Inflation Reduction Act tax breaks for zero carbon energy, advanced manufacturing, and more. This week, as House Republicans decide how quickly and thoroughly to dismantle the so-called Green New scam, the results will signal how committed GOP politicians are to snatching from their own constituents. Now, top Republicans seem to have wagered that talking points about ending handouts to Democrats, climate activist cronies, unite the caucus. Because right now they're a divided caucus over there at the right wing. And importantly, inspire them to pass a bill quickly, because all they got to do is say, this bill, we got to get this bill passed because we got to stop the handouts to the Democrats. That's like the boogeyman. The boogeyman, we got to stop the Democrats. So you tell half of them people that's voting on it, even though they could be in districts that will literally hurt their constituents, but all you got to do is tell them, we got to pass this because it's going to hurt, because we got to stop the Democrats. And they're hoping that will be enough to fool the GOP voters in their districts to allow them a passage in voting to pass such a bill. But will the GOP voters in those districts fall for the GOP scam? And that's the real question, because how will these House Republicans convince their constituents that, yes, you're going to have to take a heat. You're going to have to hurt by me voting for a bill that can take away stuff for you because we have to stop the Democrats. And will that work when it comes to the midterms? If this backfires on House Republicans, and it's all going to come down to messaging here, right? Because we know, to be fair, we know that the Republicans have been much better at messaging than the Democrats. And if the Democrats don't harp on this, and the GOP is able to get away with this scam, which right now it looks like they are, because I don't really even hear any pushback from the Democrats. Yeah, you hear the typical cable news people talking about it, but it doesn't seem to really be affecting anybody on the ground, because what happens is, when those programs disappear, they'll just blame the Democrats. That's what they'll do. They'll give the script to the right-wing podcasters, because that's what most of these people are at. They're not watching cable news. They may be watching Fox, maybe a little Newsmax and OAN and Right Side and all those, the War Room and stuff like that. Maybe even Alex Jones at some of them, and Glenn Beck and all that. But they'll get the script. The right-wing podcasters will get the script and say, hey, you need to put it out on your shows when you get on the air at 8, 9 in the morning that this has to happen. We have to stop the Democrats. Make sure you mention Democrats, Green New scam, blah, blah. Just get that in the heads of these people that are listening to you by the millions, because these people get a lot of views. They do. I know you don't like to believe it, but they get a lot of views. Some question if those views are organic, but it doesn't matter. There's enough people. You go into them chats in the early mornings, they're up early in the dawn, 7, 8, 9 in the morning. They're on the Rumble chats, the YouTube chats, whatever chat that they have shows on. They're in there. So they get the script. They say, hey, this is what you got to say. You got to hit those points. You got to make sure that they know. And there's no combating that. Like, there's no morning podcasters on the left-wing side that can combat the right-wing side. And obviously the right-wing side is kicking the left-wing side on cable news as well, because Fox News outrates all of them. So the messaging is non-existing. Yeah, there are a couple people that have podcasts that got over a couple million followers, but those people don't really hit it home, right? I think the only one who's really kind of down or that has a little bit of popularity right now is those Midas touch people, right? They're the ones that kind of on the scene and they're hot right now for the left. But for the most part, the left doesn't have anything that is as consistent as those people on the right when it comes to messaging. Exists, but they don't have the messaging. The messaging is kind of not great. And I don't know what's going on with that progressive network. They have pretty good progressive stuff, but they're fighting it. They seem like they done crossed over and became, I don't know. But anyway, so it's going to come down to messaging. How will this get messaged to the constituents that are going to be affected by this? You get what I'm saying? So we're going to see. Now, on Friday, the House Budget Committee voted against advancing this tax and spend proposal. Republican hardliners were demanding that even steeper cut was made. So they want more cuts. They want more fucking cuts. You kidding me? Some Republicans have said they want to preserve the funds that have helped billions of dollars worth of investments in their districts. Others have argued that those cuts should go much further. So some Republicans, they understand the optics here. They're like, hey, maybe let's not cut all of the benefits away from that Biden gave my district, because you're going to need to get reelected. And I'd much rather not have those benefits cut. But they're like, nah, we need to cut more. We need to go beyond that. We need to cut more. Because if we cut more, then we can get those tax cuts for the rich, and I can get extra funded for my reelection. While I may be in a tough primary, but if it comes down to who has more money in the war chest, I can still win because those rich fuckers will give me money because I looked out and voted yes on those tax cuts. Right? Because all the rich donors are watching. They're like, who's going to vote against my tax cuts? Whoever it is, I'm going to put money in their opponent. Right? That's pretty much how that's going. So Republicans, hardliners, they want more cuts. Right? Late Sunday night, that bloc eventually relented, of course. And they all folded because they know they need those donors more so than they care about their own constituents. So after the weekend Friday, some of them were trying to be like, yeah, man, come on, let's not cut all of them. Then they said, all right, Monday came around, or Sunday night, whatever it was. They said, damn, I think I'm going to fold because I'm afraid. Maybe they got a call from Trump. Maybe Trump said, you better vote yes, or I'm going to fund your opponent. I'm going to endorse your opponent, and you're going to be out of office so fast your head will spin. And they say, yes, Mr. President, whatever you say, right? Or maybe they got some concessions, right? Sometimes that's what it takes. Like, what do you need? What do you want? Right? They hold out for something in return. They're like, yeah, you got a couple million sitting over here. I like to have about 2-3 million of that untouched funds that's sitting there. You got about, because they got money sitting in all type of places that you can't just move it. But if you could come up with a name of a project in that, wherever that bill is sit at, you could come up with a name. Hey, make up something called the Green Wednesdays, whatever. And then you allowed to get the money that's sitting there. You say, I want this project. And then they get like $20 million out of there. And they do whatever they want with it, right? It's all time game. So they come up with all type of stuff. So that's probably what happened. They made a deal. They got some shit. Some of them crossed the line. Maybe they fight at the Mar-a-Lago, right? It's like, hey, come on down to Mar-a-Lago on Monday. I'll give you a tour. You can hang out. And then they go in there, they take pictures, they get a picture with the president, then they can go back to their district and say, hey, see, the president loves me, president, I'm his rare man. So you can be again, right? And that type of shit. Okay. So on here, let's see what happens. So like I said, late Sunday they all folded. So there's still a few of them left that want to fight. They want more concessions. It's not exactly clear on what those lawmakers got out of this weekend's deal. Like Republicans appeared poised to deal an even more critical hit to those incentives inside the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, than those that they proposed last week. So the original package will eliminate most of the Inflation Reduction Act's $7,500 tax credit to purchase certain electric vehicles at the end of this year and phase out incentives for wind, solar, nuclear, and a bunch of other power years ahead of the schedule. So a preliminary analysis from a group that's kind of watching stuff for the working families over a lease proposal could raise household energy costs by as much as 7% in 2035. Now, why would they care about that? No one cares, right? That's why they don't have no problem doing it, because it's like 2035, that's 10 years from now. Who gives a fuck, right? That's why, and that's the problem with a lot of these bills when and it's for both parties. They'll pass a big giant bill, and a lot of it will go into an effect like years down the line, but they'll get a good political win at the moment, but it wouldn't stop the next president from coming in or the next Congress to overdo some of that. They'll have wiggle room, because a lot of that stuff, you know what I'm saying? This is how it goes. It's just kind of crazy how that works. All right, so we're back. Sorry, I got my phone ring and all type of stuff. All right, go. So where was I? I was at God damn it. Where the hell was I? Oh, okay. So yeah. Like, so a lot of times with those bills, they when you pay a bill, and a lot of that stuff goes into effect years down the line when you don't have to worry about it, but it's a good political win in the media, get good press out of it, and then the next Congress and the next party can come in and just reverse it or, you know, eliminate it. And but the weird about that is that if they eliminate it or even stop funding it, the money doesn't go back to the pot. Like, I think the way you're not understanding is that, like, the money's already been allocated, so the money is gonna sit there, and the only way it could get moved, it get used, is for a project that's within that wherever it was allocated at. So you would have to come up with a new project that's similar to the money that's there, and then the money can be spent. Otherwise, the money just sits there. It doesn't go back into the pot. It doesn't go back into tax dollars. Matter of fact, if they come up with, say, if the House GOP or Republicans came up with their own version of a Inflation Act, they would have to allocate more money, tax dollars. So you almost be like doubling the money. All that money would just be sitting there waiting to be spent and allocated to any program that was connected to it. But the money is there. Like, it's not they take money. If they stop the money's, like, that money can be moved. They can't move it to another thing. That money is if some of that money is part of the solar or the green deal or whatever, that shit gonna sit there. It's not gonna be, you can't move it. You can't say, okay, I'm gonna take that money and give it to hunger or the homeless. You can't do it. They would have to pass another bill to help the homeless if they want to do that. And then they would have to get tax dollars again, reallocate more money for that. So there's going to be a bunch of money just sitting there in these different places not being used until then you would hope, I guess, the next president who has a similar agenda to the other president that would be able to use those funds. But that's how they steal money. It's a scam. Like, Congress is a scam. And what they would do, and this is why the people should be calling for audits to everything in Congress. Not Doge audits. That's fake audits. Doge is a scam too. I'm talking about real audits, meaning that independent auditors, like the American voters, you know, you pay a handful, you get a representative, rotate whatever people can sign up that's in each state, and they should be brought into a room and be able to go through stuff and just have like a viewing of audits, you know, and kind of see, and I don't know, maybe do it like every 6 months, bring in like a handful of people, have like a type setting, and then those people can give a grade on the satisfaction of the audit. It'll be documented. So, like, say if they come out of it and say, well, yeah, I don't think that was a great audit, or some things don't make sense, we got questions, and it's by the voters, right? And then they could grade it and put it online and say, hey, this is what we found. This is our, like, the government will have their audit, but then the auditors have their information. Then the auditors, the American voter, will have their analysis of what they see with their information. Then they compare the two. Voters can see both sides. You can see what the Congress is saying. Then you'll see what the American people say. And then you can make a determination like that, right? I think something like that could be good, you know, and on how this spent and where it goes. Because Doge is like, let's be honest, Elon came in and he wanted to stop places that were investigating his companies. That was his main goal. right? That's why they kept moving the goalposts. Oh, we're gonna save $1 trillion. We're gonna find fraud, waste, and abuse. They didn't find a goddamn thing. They found zero, absolutely zero. They canceled a bunch of programs that were actually beneficial. They ended up knocking off other programs that most of the money was already spent, but they counted it like they canceled the whole contracts. It was a big scam. They really didn't do much, but they did. The damage they did do was bad, but they didn't find any waste, fraud, or abuse. And that was the bottom line. It was all a scam, sadly. But what I was gonna say. Let's move on here and finish this off. So Republicans have tried to suggest otherwise. They want $880 billion in cuts, people. In Energy Commerce Committee, they want the Energy Commerce Committee to get rid of $80 billion, and that's going to come out of Medicaid. The CB estimated GOP post Medicaid cuts would suck $625 billion out of the program. So as of so far, $625 billion is going to be cut Medicaid, at least right now. And yeah. So there you have it. GOP wants to kick 10 million poor and disabled people off of Medicaid, and they want to leave 7.6 million people uninsured, adding work requirements and making it easier for states to cancel coverage. Now, the whole work requirements thing, it sounds like a great in theory, right? It sounds like something that people obviously will be for. Yeah, need work requirements, blah, blah, blah. But you do realize that many of these people already work. That's the problem. So what kind of work requirements are you going to enhance? Especially if you live in small towns that don't have many jobs. And if you have limited skills, it's not like you can go and get a job in a field. So if you're disabled or you're poor, you don't have transportation, maybe you don't have a car, you can't take jobs like trucking or doing any stuff like that because you don't have a driver's license. You may not have transportation. You may not be able to drive, but you still may have a job. Maybe you work at a convenience store. Or maybe you can't get a job like that because there are none. Maybe only 2 stores in your town. And in order to get a job, you might have to go out 30 miles outside your area. And like I said, with no car, you're fucked. So you're hoping that a job opens up at your local Family Dollar or Dollar General. And it's not easy to get those jobs. You can send out applications every week, every day, and they just don't call, even though they say they're hiring. So a lot of people are going to be screwed as hell. Many people depend on these services because it supplements a lot of rent, right? Because rent, even though, yes, rent is cheaper in some of these smaller towns, it's still very expensive. And if you're on a fixed income, your food stamps and your Medicaid definitely helps you not end up spending a lot of money. So if you lose those benefits, you got to come out of pocket to pay for your medicine or your doctor's visits or any specialist you may have to go see. Or if you got to buy food because you lost your stamps or your stamps got heavily cut, then what do you do? Right? It's just, and then if you leave it to states, it could be even worse because sometimes the states don't get it right. They screw up. They're slow too, just like the federal government. And if you tell the state, hey, you must get a job at such, how does someone get it and how and when they get the job? You just don't know, right? It could take them a long time to get a job. What's the limit? How long? How many weeks? How many days? It's just a complete mess. I think before they start cutting anything, they need to be opening job training places and job centers in these cities. Really get people out and to work. Open more job training facilities locally. Even incentivize the states. Hey, you start job programs, job training for people who may be a certain age, like even for people who are like, say, 30 and 50 years old, only have one skill set, maybe they didn't have any skill set, maybe they're disabled, and they need to be trained to get a type of certification. Make it easier for them to get it. Make it easier. Have something. If you do that, people can work. You don't have to worry about the benefits. People can work more. But if you're just cutting them off with no plan, you're just going to have a bunch of homeless people living in all over the place. There's just no plan here. Like, how can you just come out and know, we got to cut Medicaid because we got a benefit? And how can any rich motherfucker out there? And this is why people need to start boycotting these businesses. Because they're literally telling you, hey, We don't care the average Joe who makes us rich because we made so much money, and regardless of how poor we make these people, we could take every single dollar out of their pocket and they will still find a way to buy our stuff. And that is what they see. The numbers show that. Literally, people could be broke and they'll find a way to buy the latest PlayStation, the latest video game, the latest camera phone, the latest whatever. Because all they're going to do is say, okay, well, you can't afford it. Here's a payment, right? And then people sign up for the payment plan. Boom. That's a sale. That's a profit sale. And then it's good. The quarterlies look good. The stock goes up because the sales are going up. Yeah, you might have 1 million new sales, but how many of those people bought it outright? Probably 20% of them did. The rest of them are on payment plans. But the sale looks good for you and your company. You look good. Even if they don't all pay it off in time, down the line, maybe 6 months from now, where you have to come after them and take you still got the sale and your stock still rises. So these companies don't care. They're willing to let you go into debt to die in order for them to make profits. And people need to wake the fuck up. Stop letting these companies screw us over. People need to be boycotting companies, stop buying their shit, and say, you know what? We're not going to buy nothing you selling until you step up and tell Congress that you don't need no goddamn tax cuts. You got enough cuts. You make enough money off of us, and you want to bleed us dry. And they're the loudest ones in the room right now. So you got two options. You're either going to hold businesses accountable by stop buying their stuff, going into debt, stop signing up for loans and debt payment plans to go concerts, or you're going to hold your political officials accountable and vote their asses out of office. I say do both. But what's more realistic? I think it's realistic that you could stop buying their shit. Because many people who buy that stuff may not even be politically engaged to even know what's going on. They just know, oh, I'm going out this weekend. I'm going to go into debt to go see a concert and get ripped off by some third-party app where I'm going to end up paying twice the amount for a ticket because I'm on a payment plan, or iPhone 22 or whatever. iPhone, what is it, 20, 19 or whatever? I don't know. I'm going to jump on a payment plan for a phone that's cost $2,000. Well, don't worry, I can get the newest phone. I just got to pay $75 a month plus my phone bill. And I can walk around and floss like I got the newest phone and I'm rich. We got to stop it. Cut it out, folks. I'm telling you. These companies don't care about us. This is proof right here. They're willing to take the tax cuts. They don't need it. They made record profits during COVID. They made record profits during the last 4 years. They made so much goddamn money. They don't need cuts. They don't need them. They're just getting greedy at this point. And at the cost of the consumers, it's our fault, right? It's our fault that people raise prices. And then we got these fools who are either conservative or the average Joe that is sitting online arguing about the cost. People want more money. They want higher wages. Now, mind you, everything goes up except for wages. But then when people say, hey, how about an extra couple dollars? Oh, what do you mean? Then now I got to pay $30 for a burger because you want a $2 raise. Think about that. Think about how stupid you sound. Think about how crazy that is that your burger will now be $30 because workers want $1 or $2 more per hour. When that same burger probably 10, 15 years ago was probably fucking $5, right? So, but the wages didn't go up anymore. Maybe the wages went up $1 in that span, but the burger somehow went from $5 to fucking $20. But the wage only went up $1.50. But you're arguing with the people who want $2 more per hour? You're complaining? Come on. You redirect your anger to the wrong people. Redirect your anger to the company that thinks they can get away with this. Because regardless of the wages go up or not, they're gonna find some excuse to raise the profits. To raise the costs. They're always gonna refuse to do that. Regardless. Shit, some areas minimum wage is still at like fucking $7 an hour. And they still find a way to raise costs. They don't care. They're not waiting for wages to go up. They're going to raise it up anyway. Regardless, their cost is going to go up. It's going to keep going up because they can get away with it. And then because they got people like you that'll be online arguing with your fellow citizens that want $2 more per hour. We don't need $15 an hour to flip burgers. That's for high school kids. High school kids. I guess not working during the school year in the morning at lunchtime. When you come in, when you're driving to the drive-thru, there's that a high school kid in the drive-thru at fucking Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock when you want your double cheeseburger? Is that a high school kid, or is that some probably single mom or some young college student who's trying to make it a living, make it by? That ain't no high school kid, because the high school kid's in the school. And the high school kids only work a certain amount of hours at these places. They can't work like full time. So a lot of times it's not going to be high school kids. It's going to be young adults trying to make it by. But you shut up. Shut up. All of you. You simping for give a shit about you. When the heck did that become are people all of a sudden, especially you MAGA people, are simping for big corporations? Why? In the name of capitalism? Oh, it's capitalism. I'm going to simp for big corporations. Screwing you, right? They're screwing you. But you want to simp for them because of capitalism? Oh, capitalism, they should be allowed to screw us because of capitalism. I support it. Anything that Trump supports, I'm with. Trump is a billionaire. You're not. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about he'll throw crumbs your way. But the corporations, the big boys with the big pockets are always going to get more than you ever can get. And I hear a lot, oh, well, they deserve to get cuts. They provide services. Yeah, so does the police department. So does the fire department. So does teachers. Right? So does EMS. They all provide services every day. Where are their cuts? Where are their tax cuts? I don't hear you advocating for police officers to get tax cuts. They serve every day. Not only do they serve every day, they put their life on the line, right? Back to blue, the thin blue line. We love law and order. So where are their tax cuts? Where is EMS tax cuts? Where are the ambulance tax cuts? Where are the fire department tax cuts? Where are the teachers? Where are their tax cuts? Oh, but I thought they provide a service. What about the local mom and pop provides a service in their town? Do they get tax cuts too? No, they're not big chain. They're not big corporations. They're not the big boys, so they don't get jack, right? They're not billionaires, so they don't get no cuts. They got to barely make it by and hope that they have a good week or month, right? You guys are all hypocrites. You don't really care. You're only sipping and championing these big corporation tax cuts because your dear leader is doing it. When are you going to wake up and think for yourself? When? When it's too late? When you're broke? When your Social Security is at zero? Because guess what? If the young gen, hey, older people, the best interest. Guess what happens if you need the youth working, you need them engaged, you need them motivated, and they're not making money. They're not being taxed. And if they're not being taxed, checks, because they work, they get taxed. So your old ass can enjoy your retirement. You need the workforce to work, though. You need them. They're the ones stopping by and delivering your DoorDash and your Uber Eats, and they're dropping off your meds, they're dropping you off. They're driving the buses, they're doing all that you want and need. They make the engine they make the operation move, but you want them to work peanuts. You want them discouraged. You want them angry. You want them depressed because of low wages. Because you want to simp for the big corporations who already make a lot of money and make more money every time they've been making money. You're lucky that all the young people don't say, you know what, screw this. We're all going to stop working. Everybody, strike. Do you know what happened if everybody under 30 just stopped working? If they all just say, you know what, screw this. We're just going to live off the street. We're just going to survive. We're just going to not work, not pay taxes. You'd be fucked. All you Fox News viewers would be screwed unless you're extremely wealthy. Then you'll be all right. But your everyday services would be cut. You'd be done. I mean, just think about that. It's that way. That's all I got. I'm not even going to read the rest of this. You guys know what's going on. GOP's trying to screw us. House Republicans, they hate us. Republicans hate Americans. Bottom line.